Welcome to the Unpopped Review, movie reviews for movie lover and not a movie critic. Martin Scorsese has been trying to get Silence made since 1990. With so much time to think on and develop it, why be yelling its praises from the rooftops? Or like its title, well, just leave me in silence. Silence is the story of two Jesuit priests played by Andrew Garfield and Adam Driver, who in the early 1600s traveled to Japan in search for their lost teacher and mentor. But the problem is that Christians were only being persecuted in this time, they're actually being hunted and killed by the Japanese government. So the faith of these two priests is tested as they hide from those that wish to kill them. Now the most interesting part of the movie to me was the story. I never knew that when trade began with Japan that Christians were actually banished from the country. And even worse, any Japanese that were still practicing Christianity were eventually tortured and killed. So honestly, just learning about the story was well worth my time. But luckily, this isn't the only good thing that's in the movie because the artistic elements are spot on. The directing was fantastic, the actors were at the top of the game, but what I really want to talk about are the visuals. The visuals were just gorgeous. Almost every single frame of this movie was beautiful enough that it could be its own picture that I put up on my wall. But I also enjoyed the way the camera worked and moved. It reminded me of films like Seven Samurai, Yojimbo, and other movies directed by acclaimed director Akira Kurosawa. The camera work and editing techniques were as if they were lifted straight from these iconic films. And since the movie takes place during feudal Japan, it not only fit, but it made it look fantastic. Now, I usually don't mention this, but I'm actually going to talk about the rating. Scorsese is known for making profanity-filled movies like Goodfellas, The Departed, and Wolf of Wall Street. And I understand that those kind of movies definitely turn some audiences away. But in Silence, I don't think there was a single curse word in the entire film. Now, granted, that's technically because of the time period, but it definitely was something that was noticeable with such an iconic director. However, it does take place in feudal Japan when Christians were hunted, tortured, and killed. And the camera does not shy away from those horrific details. Now, it's not as bad as many horror movies nowadays, but it's a lot like watching movies about slavery, the Holocaust, or other horrific historical events. So while I hope that isn't something that turns you away, it is definitely something to keep in mind. And the last good thing I want to mention about the movie is that I really enjoyed the themes and ideologies that were presented. For a majority of the movie, there wasn't a definite side that was taken. Depending on your ideology, you could easily side with either the priests or the Japanese government. So it did a pretty good job of balancing and showing both sides of the argument. Almost. And on that note of almost, let's move on to the eh. The movie leaves both ideologies almost perfectly balanced until the third act when a side is definitely chosen. Now, I don't mind that the movie chose to take a side, I just feel that if it was a little more ambiguous, it would have made it even better. Now for the last thing that I want to talk about in Silence is the length and the pace. Silence is a hefty 2 hours and 41 minutes, and most of that runtime is spent traveling, hiding, waiting, or even the priests performing their religious duties. Now there were many gripping moments where I was literally on the edge of my seat not knowing what's going to happen. But when it wasn't, I was on the verge of boredom, so cutting 20 or 30 minutes out of this film would have done wonders. So while I did enjoy the story and many of the artistic elements of Silence, I felt the film shouldn't have chosen a side and could have been edited down a bit. But overall, I do think that Silence does deserve to be seen in theaters, but because of the slow pacing, maybe a matinee. But even then, I think Silence is an amazing film and a great work by Martin Scorsese, so I give it a 4.2 out of 5. So that's what I thought of Silence. What did you think? And what's your favorite film featuring Christianity? Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always keep it unpopped.